CRTV News, nothing but the news.
Prime Minister, head of government, seeks alternative solutions for the 2019-2020 academic year with firm instructions to officials of the education sector to avoid a blank school year at all costs. Members of the National Assembly meet in a plenary session this Friday to scrutinize the economic community of Central African states under the chair of the House Speaker, Kawayege Jibril. Defense and Territorial Administration ministers exhort officials of the South region to remain vigilant in the face of an Equatorial Guinean occupation of the Cameroonian soil on the border town of Kiosi, and those are top stories. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the 7:30 News. I'm Gladys Tata. Prime Minister Joseph John Gute has instructed ministers of the educational sectors to apply measures to ensure that there is no blank academic year in spite of the suspension of classes as a result of the coronavirus epidemic. He gave the guidelines on how to ensure a hitch-free school year during a video conference held this Friday at his lakeside residence, as we hear in this report by Star Building correspondent Sisako Tamko.
In another video conference coordinated from his office at the lakeside residence, Prime Minister John Gute brought 6 members of government of the educational sector on a platform to reiterate the head of state's prescription that measures be taken to ensure that the school year is not perturbed. What cut across all the sectors is that institutions from the higher to basic, secondary and professional will adjust to the new dispensation which prioritize e-learning. This is already ongoing at higher institutions, according to the boss of higher education. At the level of basic and secondary education, the school calendar will be adjusted. Catch-up classes have been envisaged while e-learning is going on, as well as on some programs on traditional media platforms. A memo will have been sent to different departments in charge of examinations to work on the adjustment and forward to hierarchy. For the Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reforms, whose mandate stretch across the organization of competitive entrance examinations and the School of Administration of Magistracy, the minister pointed out that there will be readjustment in the dates for the organization of these exams for 2020. Concerning examinations like the recruitment of translators and interpreters, where the reading part has been done, the minister explained that candidates will be interviewed in groups of 50 to avoid overcrowding and in respect of social distancing. A calendar for the sitting of other examinations in 2020 will be submitted to the Prime Minister in days ahead. For future registration, files will be submitted in the ministries and regional delegations, and these same measures will be applied for the collection of examination fees. The present dispensation was an opportunity for Post and Telecommunications Minister to explain progress on the digital collaborative platform that links ministries and other institutions, which unfortunately did not go right. The Prime Minister said now is the time to revive the project. At the end of the close to 3-hour session, the head of government reiterated that classes must take place, examinations reading and corrected, and insisted that the safety of Cameroonians is of utmost importance, so any proposals made should lay emphasis on social distancing. He enjoined the ministers to forward in measures taken to combat COVID-19 in the different ministries while ensuring parents that there will be no blank academic year. Concerning the restrictive measures, the head of government explained that they may be extended by 15 days depending on the situation.
As the coronavirus pandemic cases continue to increase in Cameroon, administrations are more and more vigilant in respecting government's measures to curb its spread. At the Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife, precisely, the video conferencing method and reduction of staff per day have been applied fully. Joyce Tata made a stop at the ministry this Friday and presents to us the working atmosphere that there in the midst of the crisis.
The Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife opens its doors to video conferencing.
DG, bonsoir, bienvenue. Vous me suivez?
Bonsoir, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, je vous suis, c'est un succès.
An initiative under the coordination of the communication unit. Its head, Dr. Zenchen, confirms that keys and internet modems have already been purchased from one of the mobile telecommunication service provider in Cameroon to facilitate this process, which aids in observing social distancing to fight the pandemic.
We have acquired application software. People will now be able to work at home, to share data, to communicate via the video conference.
At the mail service, hierarchy starts with a little reminder. The matrons of Hood make use of some to create a barrier to the spread of the coronavirus.
Somebody that is coming from the minister's cabinet to drop documents. He comes, they sanitize his hands, and he drops his documents. The lady that is inside, wearing her gloves, wearing her facial mask, she takes the documents, she has no contact with him.
And it doesn't end here.
Instead of 15 people coming a day, we have 5 people coming a day. They rotate following the roster that we have put up.
Officials at the Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife say in the days ahead, many more personnel will be in possession of their internet modems and briefed on its usage for the safety of all, even while the sector evolves.
Over in Douala, new safety measures are now being observed in health facilities in the region. From the arrival of patients to the treatment procedures, the new rule now demands the strict respect of sanitary measures at all levels. Gladys Atemba and Chechuma visited the Nilong Tegal District Hospital in Douala and now tells us what obtains there.
When government announced safety measures to limit the spread of the coronavirus in hospitals across the country, management of the various health institutions in the littoral region immediately went to work. One of such hospitals is the Nilong Tegal District Hospital in Douala, where these measures are strictly implemented. The director of the hospital, Dr. Noel Esomba, explains that access to the hospital has been restricted, especially to those who wish to visit patients admitted in the hospital. He adds that the number of people to remove corpses from the mortuary has been reduced to 10 per family, and that the hospital has made provisions for hand sanitizers, face masks and other disinfectants so as to check the spread of the virus. A special ward has equally been reserved for patients who present symptoms of the virus to avoid further contamination. Health officials in the region have described these measures as a therapy to halt the spread of the coronavirus pandemic in the littoral.
As confirmed cases of the COVID-19 surge, the Minister of Public Health, in one of his tweets, has prescribed the wearing of masks as the best solution for those who must go out to public places where social distancing is unavoidable. But the question now is what masks to wear, for how long should it be worn, and what users stand to gain. Beatrice Ngom went finding out from a public health expert in Yaoundé. Beatrice?
A street in Yaoundé, on the faces of commuters, a mask at all cost, surgical or not.
A community mask that we use generally should be light and have a cotton tissue that is embedded in it that can prevent the propagation or the inhalation and equally exiting of microorganisms.
The Minister of Public Health's tweet was explicit. The face mask is appropriate for certain areas and for obvious reasons.
If you must go to public places, it is good you have that as a preventive measure. It's not just to prepare anything and put on our nostrils and mouth to think that it is a mask. I don't think locally made masks like I see already in our community are advised. You should go for a certified mask.
But a face mask must not be worn all day. Duration and care are options to envisage.
We are not used to using this mask. It's not our culture. Once a mask is on, we always send our hands to either adjust it or to feel it because it's very, very uncomfortable. So the best way to avoid this is just to stay at home.
This pharmacy is still one of the few in town in possession of the surgical mask. Local production, in which is embedded filtering agent, is therefore suggested.
And government's directives on personal hygiene, social distancing and overcrowding are being respected in mosques in the nation's capital to check the spread of the coronavirus. CRTV's Gilbert Ungene visited some mosques this afternoon to find out how these measures are being put into practice and compiled the following report for the 7:30 news.
On a Friday afternoon, the Chinga Islamic complex, one of the biggest in the country, ought to be flooded with Muslim faithful. But things have changed here since the advent of the COVID-19.
Today we are like this is number 3 Friday without anybody coming inside or going to pray inside in the complex.
The faithful have reviewed their ways of prayer to Allah, which prevents the spread of the pandemic.
Since the coronavirus started, we are no longer praying in the mosque. We are praying in the house, and the way we are praying in the house, we are feeling difficulties. We have to observe it because it is to save life against the coronavirus.
Today I am praying in the house because they closed the mosque because of coronavirus.
Nearby at the Central Mosque of Briketeri, Muslim faithful have to pass through the hand-washing exercise before they take part in prayer. The social distancing measure is respected, and each prayer session led by the Imam, Muhammad Saminu, is attended by less than 50 people as prescribed. Elsewhere at the Etudi neighborhood, the mosque is closed from the public. Muslim clerics here say to every unprecedented challenge, stringent measures are necessary.
The mayor of the Yaoundé 6th Council has taken the decision to keep the Mendong market closed every Thursday to enable the sanitary team disinfect the market as one of the measures to cope COVID-19 in his municipality. Yoki Onana Juvenus was speaking this Friday while on a sensitization tour to fight against the virus. Gerard Nanji tells us more in the following report.
With the aid of the public address system and moving from one locality to another, the population of Yaoundé 6 have been advised to stay at home, for the coronavirus is extremely contagious, medics say. The mayor, accompanied by administrative and security officials, called on traders not to allow their merchandise to be manipulated by customers with bare hands, as that could lead to contamination. The enthusiastic population of BMRC, Monté-Jouvin, Simbok and Mendong are aware of the virus and its associated dangers.
The coronavirus is not good for the world. It's bad for every people of the world. This initiative is very, very nice for every people.
There were free distribution of sanitary kits and sterilizers in the different markets and health centers visited by the council team. Given the dense population of Mendong, its market will be closed every Thursday to permit the council sanitary team carry out disinfection.
The mayor and councillors of Babisi in the Ngok-Kitunjak division of the Northwest region have adopted strategies to embark on a sensitization campaign against the coronavirus in the 4 villages of the municipality. The campaign will feature educative messages and the donation of basic hygiene material to the villages. Jolenta Rose Afanwi completes the story from our Northwest Regional Bureau in Bamenda.
Babisi municipality is made up of 4 villages: Babungo, Babawan, Babisi and Bangolang. The councillors agreed to carry the educative messages to the different markets of the respective villages. To better implement the measures, the administrators of the council will donate face masks, wash hand buckets, soap and sanitizers to the population to use at all gatherings.
We'll move from fundum to fundum and sensitize the population, because what we will do is to ensure the level of the villages where there is a cry die, somebody will just move there with a bucket of water and savon to ensure that anybody coming to the cry die should wash his hands and even have a nose mask before they go mingling with the other people.
The meeting provided an opportunity for the mayor to keep the councillors abreast with some projects to be realized in the municipality, like the construction of the Bangolang Health Center and the donation of health equipment to the Babungo Integrated Health Center.
Today, the coronavirus has quarantined more than 3 billion people, with nearly 2 billion children out of school 4 months into the disease globally. The United Nations has called for a new form of solidarity to confront the dreaded pandemic yet of the century. Charles Ebune looks at the impact of COVID-19 in drawing a new global dynamics.
Every nation in the world today, even the world's largest democracy, India, and the world's first economy, the United States of America, plus Tuvalu, one of the world's poorest and smallest states, are scaled on the same balance by the coronavirus.
The virus does not care about nationality or ethnicity, faction or face. It attacks all relentlessly.
2019 great powers are today weak and extremely vulnerable. The disease, which first emerged here roughly 4 months now, has exposed the fragility and vulnerability of our planet, especially the health system.
The way the virus is impacting the health system, industrialized country, doesn't give any space for holding meetings.
The new global power structure being shaped by the coronavirus tasked leaders to rethink humility and international solidarity.
Le Covid-19 a la particularité d'avoir mis
COVID-19 has questioned international solidarities and not solidarity.
Je parle pas de la solidarité, mais des solidarités internationales.
The myth of super hospitals, super medical schools, and super pharmaceutical companies like Johnson & Johnson somewhere have been quarantined too.
Increase domestic resource allocation for the health systems or health services.
Even the most arrogant on international television cameras are humbled now because the degree of vulnerability imposed on all by corona is so great.
And we still estimate that by 2030, probably up to 30% of the population in the world will be living in countries affected by fragility.
The coronavirus outbreak shows that the real war of this century is between politics versus technology and science versus nature.
Indeed, Charles Ebune. In world news, the coronavirus pandemic continues to make headlines with the total number of infected persons exceeding 1 million out of 204 countries affected. The USA tops the chart with over 250,000 cases of the COVID-19, and Italy still maintains the highest death toll. What is the situation in the world and in Africa? Alice Mbe compiled this report for the news.
The world now records more than 1 million people contaminated in just 3 months, with more than 56,000 deaths, while Italy proves to have the highest contaminated cases of about 119,000 and 14,000 deaths, with a rapid contamination and deaths recorded each day. Spain records 117,000 cases and about 10,000 deaths, while America records about 265,000 cases and 6,000 deaths. France, Germany, Belgium, and Switzerland and other European countries also have cases of infected persons. In the meantime, China's situation is gradually getting better, and the government is putting in some measures to relaunch economic activities in the country. While South Africa counts about 1,500 cases and 7 deaths. In Egypt, 4 cases die each day. Out of this lot, 223,700 people have recovered from the COVID-19 disease in the world.
And on to one of our lead stories. Administrative and security officials of the South region have been enjoined to remain vigilant in the face of Equatorial Guinean occupation of Cameroonian territory. The minister delegate at the Presidency of the Republic in charge of defense, Joseph Betia Somo, and Paul Atanganji of Territorial Administration were speaking in Kiosi while on a security evaluation mission in the South region. The two ministers equally urged authorities to intensify the sensitization on the COVID-19, as Albert Njembonde tells us in the following report.
A reduced convoy, a lightened reception void of any handshakes, prescriptions against the COVID-19 respected to the latter, as Joseph Betia Somo and Paul Atanganji make part of the journey on foot along the Cameroon-Equatorial Guinea border. Brigadier General Ezo Vondo, commander of the 1st Joint Military Region, and South Governor Felix Ngelengele take turns to brief the head of state's envoys on the intensified military patrols and persistent encroachment of Equatorial Guinea on Cameroonian soil. And this is it. Malabo engages a vast infrastructural project on Cameroonian territory, more than an act of provocation. The situation is becoming persistent, forcing security and defense officials of Cameroon to put the project on hold. Here, Joseph Betty Asomo extends the congratulations of the Commander-in-Chief, President Paul Biya, for the military's sense of composure and instructs continuous vigilance. Satellite images confirm this is Cameroonian soil, and government has documents dating as far back as French and Spanish occupation to defend its claims. In a security meeting held in Canberra, the governor of the South is encouraged to continue a diplomacy of proximity as government seeks to reactivate the mixed commission between the two countries to discuss border demarcation issues, while urging authorities of the South to continue desensitization on the dangers of COVID-19. It is two ministers who left the South reassured that security and defense forces are resolute to defend fatherland to the very end.
Coronavirus pandemic, which is the mother of all battles we have ever faced, calls for a solidarity and patriotism void of partisan politics. The first Vice President of the Social Democratic Front, Joshua Osei, made public the position of his party on the fight against COVID-19 in a press conference this Friday in Yaoundé. He also decried the rejection of SDF March 22nd partial legislative election rerun complaints in some constituencies in the northwest and southwest regions, describing the exercise as fraught with irregularities and insecurity. Details with Kilian Difon.
The Social Democratic Front, SDF, says the same irregularities and conditions that caused the election rerun resurfaced on March 22.
The transfer and relocation of polling stations to public regrouping centers, the distances of voters to get to these so-called polling centers, the non-publication of polling stations before the ballot in the constituencies concerned, the absence of local ELECAM representatives in most of the constituencies, failure to consider the security of voters, the impossibility to campaign.
But the SDF has bowed to the Constitutional Council ruling rejecting all post-electoral complaints.
We hereby would like to point out that while we do not accept this proclamation, we are bound by virtue of our constitutional responsibilities to respect it.
The Social Democratic Front has also chosen the path of patriotism faced with COVID-19 pandemic.
The present situation calls for all Cameroonians to stand together, to put our partisan political inclinations aside and fight this pandemic as the mother of all battles we have ever faced. These are not times for partisan politics. This pandemic calls on the solidarity and patriotism of all.
All allegations that the SDF had election-fixing negotiations were dispelled. The SDF scribe also noted that the party would transform its current difficulties to a rebound.
And on to this press release just coming into our studio, and it reads, the President of the Constitutional Council hereby informs the public that the solemn ceremony to proclaim the results of the rerun of the election of members of the National Assembly of 22nd March 2020 shall hold on Tuesday, 7th April 2020 at 11 a.m. in the courtroom of the Constitutional Council at the Conference Center here in Yaoundé. However, considering the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, the sessions shall hold in strict compliance with the measures taken by government relating thereto. And this press release has been signed by the President of the Constitutional Council, Clement Atangana. And on to one of our lead stories again, the revised treaty establishing the Economic Community of Central African States, signed in December 8, 2019 in Libreville, Gabon, have been adopted by members of Parliament at the National Assembly. It was adopted alongside that which relates to the Inter-African Conference on Social Security and the management of ships' ballast water and sediments. The bills were adopted during a plenary sitting in Yaoundé today, chaired by House Speaker Kavayege Jibril, as Esther Kima tells us in the following report.
It was in the strict respect of the social distancing rule that the members of the National Assembly spread out in the House chamber and the public gallery took part in the debates. After the presentation of the reports of the Foreign Affairs Committee on the treaty establishing the Economic Community of Central African States and the probing into the ICT components of the accord, government expounded on the need to strengthen harmonious cooperation and balanced development.
This treaty has been revised to emphasize on challenges and, more importantly, to build on cooperation. So cooperation at the level of universities, research centers are going to be one of the key areas. Policy making is also important.
The revised treaty of the Inter-African Conference of Social Security, adopted on February 2014 in Abidjan and defended by Minister Gregoire Owona, on its part seeks to streamline the functioning of social security systems. Amidst amendments proposed to the English version of the treaty and explanations sought on the financial commitments of member states, the bill was endorsed. Meanwhile, the minister delegate to the Minister of Transport, Njoya Zakariau, took to the rostrum to respond to mechanisms put in place to ensure maritime safety, efficiency of navigation, and control of pollution from ships. These are outlined in the bill on the International Convention for the control and management of ships' ballast water and sediments, also approved during the plenary sitting.
To round up our series on the impact of public securities on socio-economic growth, we take a look tonight at the benefits on the telecoms and defense sectors. More than 10 billion CFA francs has been invested in projects geared towards strengthening the telecoms network and infrastructural development. Clarice Aretakang has more.
By next year, Cameroon's optical fiber network is expected to extend to 15,000 kilometers. Currently, the telecommunications sector is interconnected by 12,000 kilometers of the technology. More than 3,000 kilometers of that was funded by money raised through treasury bonds, a plus in the growth of the digital economy.
It's always a difficulty to, go about implementing, contracting with each and every different telecom provider or the financial sector before putting a solution out there. But with the national payment switch being live, it acts as a one-stop shop where a software developer like myself can quickly deploy the single set of standard application programming interfaces and put the solutions out in the market.
On the streets, the watchful eyes of security cameras stand tall, a project which saw the light of day thanks to public securities. Meanwhile, some government structures were given a facelift and new ones erected. Stadia-related infrastructure cropped up, and a number of small and medium-sized enterprises were restructured in a project worth 12 billion CFA francs. Furthermore, mining and geological resources saw their value positively impacted and industrial fields enhanced. The discovery of new mineral deposits brought with it an increased interest in the country's underground potential. The state has been resorting to financial markets to secure money since 2010, counterpart funds which have gone a long way to effectively build different sectors of the economy.
And that does it on the 7:30 news tonight. But before we take leave of you, a recap of our major stories. Prime Minister, head of government, seeks alternative solutions for the 2019-2020 academic year with firm instructions to officials of the education sector to avoid a blank year at all costs. And the members of the National Assembly meet in a plenary session this Friday to scrutinize the economic community of Central African states under the chair of the House Speaker, Kavayige Jibril. And Defense and Territorial Administration ministers exhort officials of the South region to remain vigilant in the face of an Equatorial Guinean occupation of the Cameroonian soil on the border town of Kiosi. And just to let you know that so far in Cameroon, there are 508 cases of the coronavirus, which has been reported by the Minister of Public Health this evening. And at 8:30, you will join Atabadine Umar for the news in French. And I'll be here tomorrow, same time. Keep the faith. Good night.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.